Yeah, well, now promotion is a lot different than it was back then. Like I said,
Sure.
we would flyer the hell out of our stuff and make sure that kids knew. But now you just post it online.
Sure. What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well, doing well. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
Appreciate you.
Excuse me. I'm Adam, and this podcast is about you and your journey in music. We'll talk about the new song "Free Ride" and the EP you guys have coming out, and tour and all that fun stuff. That's cool.
Sounds great.
Awesome, man. Well, Seth, talk to me about were you born and raised in Vegas? Is that what I read? Or the band started in Vegas?
Yep. So our band started in Vegas. I also was born and raised in Vegas. We all kind of grew up here. And after our little stint a couple years ago, we all kind of spread out around the country. But I'm still living here in Vegas.
Okay. Oh, like when COVID hit or something? Like, is that what you meant? Or like something happened? Like what?
Yeah. No. Well, our band kind of probably about 8 years ago, stopped playing music for a little while, and kind of all, we all got
Okay, that's what
jobs
I.
and
Okay,
did that thing for
sure,
a
sure,
while. But
sure.
COVID is kind of what revamped our band, to be completely honest.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I want to talk to you about that because this is the first song you guys have put out in a handful, like what, 9 years or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
or since like '09, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's cool, and I dig it, man. Free Ride. I like the song a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's rewind then. So, born and raised in Vegas. What was it like growing up in Vegas? How close are you to the Strip and that insanity?
So, we're probably still like 20 minutes out from the Strip, but anywhere you are in Vegas, you're about 20, 30 minutes out from the Strip.
Okay.
Yeah, even though Vegas is relatively a big town, it's also relatively a small town. So, growing up here, you get used to the glitz and the glam of the casinos. It kind of becomes second nature to you.
Mm-hmm. Was it something like, I'm always curious, like if you're growing up there and the weekend comes and you're, in high school, did you just go, because you could essentially just go out there, right? And like just cause a ruckus because it's just like 24/7, people just getting weird out there.
Yeah, it's Las Vegas. It's where people go to escape. So there's a lot of debauchery that is happening around, and when you're young, it's very easy to sneak yourself into a couple of places and have a good time.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow. Okay. Then how did you get into music? Musical household? At all?
I just grew up around music. My family, my folks had me listening to a lot of music. I growing up, they would put me in different like choirs and things like that, and so I was definitely very familiar with music growing up.
Singing, it sounds like
Yep.
too, like a lot.
Yep.
Okay.
Singing. My mom got me into piano when I was really young, so I kind of had an ear for music growing up, pretty much.
How long did you keep playing piano, or can you still play piano to this
Um,
day?
you know, I I I can play the keys, but I'm not what I would call a concert pianist. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
can't really uh read music that fast. It takes me a little bit
Understood.
longer, if that makes
Sure,
sense.
sure. And when do you like? Are you in chorus and choir and everything through middle school, high school, or was that something that?
I was and I wasn't. So I my mom would get me in like choirs and stuff like that growing up, and then once I got to like middle school, it wasn't cool. So I was like, "Oh, mom, I want to learn guitar." So she
Sure.
let me get into guitar class, which then I ended up doing a lot of theater and stuff like that. And in high school, theater came across a musical, which I was like, well, I'm not going to miss out on a theater production. I'm going to do the musical. And then I realized, oh shit, I can sing a lot better than most kids can. Oh, I didn't even really realize that. And I think it grew from there that I ended up joining choir halfway through high school, and
Hmm.
that's where I met our bass player Jay Centeno, and that's kind of how our band started. Is he heard me in choir and was like, "Hey, I'm singing in this band, but you should be singing in our band."
Oh wow! So they were already a band. You just kind of joined in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, relatively, they had like 2 or 3 practices and written a song or 2.
Okay.
And they were like, I'm thinking about stopping playing guitar because we have like 3 guitarists, but no bassist. And I think when I'm going to take up bass, I think you should come in and start singing for us. And so that's kind of how it all happened.
And did you ever have an interest in writing music or writing lyrics or
You know,
even being in a
at the
band?
at the time, I hadn't even put any thought into that. When he asked me to do it, I just thought it would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just stemmed into us being pretty good, and it just stemmed into more.
Sure. Okay. So what grade were you when you joined the band?
So I was he had just graduated high school, Jay Centeno, and he was about 2 grades above me. So I think I joined right out of sophomore year.
Okay. So you still had a couple years of high school then.
Yeah. I mean, we had the band in high school. So I mean, I did my junior year with like our band just starting, and then my senior year, about halfway through it, so when we got signed, and
Wow.
I had my mom sign me out of high school at 17 because we were like, oh yeah, this is a good way that if you sign me out, I won't lose my credits and all that. But she didn't
Mhm.
know that I had a 2-month tour, not a 2-week tour.
Okay.
And and
So
then it turned into that.
yeah. So did you guys have tell me about getting signed and to be in high school to get signed? Was that something like were you playing out a lot or just around Vegas? Like how do you get
I
your
mean,
name out there? And
we were definitely playing out a lot in Vegas. We were definitely also doing like traveling gigs. We would go to California, New Mexico, different like places that were around Utah that were close, but at the same time weren't too far.
Mhm.
And we could afford to drive to those kinds of places. And we just wanted to spread our wings. Once we were doing really well in Vegas, we were like, well, we want to go to California. We want to go to all these different places. And then once we started playing a couple of those places, that's when we got noticed by Fiddler Records at the time. And they signed us, and we put out Star is Dead and Histrionics.
Wow. Okay. And with that, getting noticed, and so you guys probably knew, or like, what point did you know? Okay, this is really what I want to do. I mean, to be touring and going outside of the Vegas area to travel to Utah, New Mexico, and all these things, and
Well,
you're still in high school. Was there like a moment that kind of triggered, like, whoa, we're like actually really good. We should continue doing this?
Well, I mean, I think it was just because we had labels that we were listening to bands on those labels hitting us up and asking us if we wanted to sign. And I mean, at the time, we had a couple of different labels looking at us. And the reason we chose Fiddler was because when we met the owners, we really felt like they knew what we were looking for,
Mm-hmm.
and they were ready to start helping us right then and there. And I think that is just kind of what convinced us. And I'm really glad we did, because we made lifelong friends out of the owners of those labels. And it, they're definitely good people. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that we had our stint with Fiddler, but it also helped us get noticed again by more of a bigger label. And that's when we ended up signing with Epitaph Records.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, you guys signed to 2 like legit record labels. I mean, right out the gate. I mean, with Fiddler, you had, I mean, I think Newfound Glory put a record out with them, and Dashboard had records with them. The Bled had
Yep.
records with. I mean, like the list
The
of those
Bled is my
bands.
favorite hardcore band to this date. And
Oh, is
I
that
mean,
right?
there
I
were great
loved that
bands
band
like
growing up.
Recover
Oh yeah,
and Name
Recover.
Taken. Yep.
Okay.
They I would say that Amy and Jay, they definitely had an ear for talent, and they definitely signed some really good bands. And they had really good intentions with Fiddler Records. I really think that without Fiddler Records, our band needed that time to grow, and they definitely are the kind of people that were nurturing us at the time.
that must have been obviously a big moment. Like, are you still in high school when you signed that deal? That's how you got
Yeah.
out? Like your
Yeah.
mom
I
signed you
mean,
out of it or
I
whatever?
was the only one that was still in high school at that time, but yeah,
Was
it
that
was just really cool to get signed in high school.
right? Like, were other kids jealous of you? Or like, were there
I
other
mean,
bands in the
yeah, I
scene that
mean,
people
but
were
they
like,
didn't see.
oh, like,
We got signed and
Seth?
they didn't see me. I came back to school for a couple weeks after Christmas break, and then I signed out, and we were on tours. So
But I mean, even before that, like to have the kind of build up and have people interested and notice and have your band selling venues, you know what I
oh,
mean?
definitely, we were definitely like the band that at the venues like House of Blues and the Huntridge at the time. Those people would put us on the show because they knew that we would. Well, they knew we would flyer the hell out of it,
And it
and
would
they knew that
draw.
we would get kids there, and so we ended up getting to play with all of our favorite kind of artists at the time, and it was a great moment for sure.
Yeah. I grew up in San Diego. I'm in Nashville now, but that was like, there's a club there called Soma. I don't know. You've
Yep,
probably
we
played
definitely
it.
played
Yeah,
Soma
I was gonna say you guys
a
have
million
probably played
times.
it. That was the spot for bands. If you could sell tickets, they would get you on. Like you could open a main stage show or something like that. And like I
Yep,
remember bands like Pierce the Veil now, which they were called Early Times back then. Like they would open for somebody, and then they would chance to play the main stage. And then like now they're massive, but it's like it's cool to see those clubs. And I don't even know if clubs like that still exist. Are they still doing that? I feel like
I
that
mean they
scene
do.
is
I,
kind of
I
not
definitely when I
around.
was in San Diego last, I saw Soma
Well,
still
someone's
alive.
still kicking it, but are they like?
It's still there, man.
I
We're
know they're
playing
a
the
venue,
Roxy, so I mean some of them still exist.
but I mean, like in the sense of if you're in a local band and you start, and they'll give you a shot, like to sell.
Oh
If you
yeah,
sell 100 tickets this day, and maybe the next time a national touring act comes through, like you'll get to like play on that bill. You know what I mean? Like I don't know
yep.
if those if that hierarchy is there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, now promotion is a lot different than it was back then. Like I said,
Sure.
we would flyer the hell out of our stuff and make sure that kids knew. But now you just post it online. I mean,
Sure. Now they're gonna go off Instagram followers.
yeah,
Uh,
it's all digital now.
oh man, wow, that's so exciting though. So you signed that deal. What was it like? You leave at, you said 17, and now you're on the road for 2 months. Like you signed. Who do they put you on the road with? And what was that
I
experience
want to
like?
say one of our very first tours was with a band called Park,
Okay.
and they were a band I was really we were all familiar with at the time and really loved. We had just played a show with them and Yellow Card's starting line in early November
Wow.
at the Huntridge, and we were like, "Oh man, this band Park is awesome!" And so they had us go out on tour with them, and then after that, you know, we just kind of bounced from here and there to different tours. We did some Warp Tour dates. We did some dates with Name Taken,
Mm-hmm. They were another
which was
band on. They're
Fiddler.
also on the
Yep,
same. Yeah, they're also a Fiddler band, right?
yep. And then once we had done that for about a year or so, that was when we got signed by Epitaph Records, and we just started landing a lot more tours. We got ourselves a decent booking agent. So,
Sure. Obviously, I mean, to go to Epitaph, which I'm sure were bands that you also grew up on. I mean, from that
oh
label,
yeah,
obviously.
absolutely. Like, I mean, when we signed to Epitaph, they still have Motion City soundtrack. We were huge fans of Motion City. They had just signed our friends in town, which was more of a screamo band, but called Escape the Fate,
Oh
which at the
yeah.
time still had Ronnie Radke in the band. Um, and then our friends were in this band called The Matches.
Oh yeah. I know
Um,
the matches. I remember
yep,
seeing them play at Soma back like when I was in high school.
yep. And if you may have seen us play with them because we did a lot of
Maybe.
touring with The Matches for sure. And uh,
But yeah.
they're one of my favorite bands still to this date. They just released a really cool DVD, or I guess just like documentary that you
Hmm.
can download, bleeding audio, and it's really cool just to kind of see their story, because we take so many similarities with, you know, how they got started and coming up in their hometown and then getting signed and doing the touring circuit. So
That's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, to be on Epitaph for me growing up, like that would have just been like mind blowing. Like between Epitaph or Victory, who ended up screwing a bunch of bands, or you know, Hopeless or
we
whatever.
yeah,
It,
I
what?
mean, those were the bands or the labels that were after us. You know, at the time we were talking to Drive Through Records, we were
Oh yeah,
talking to
Drive Through is
Fearless.
massive. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Fueled by Ramen at that time had just kind of really taken off. There were a lot of labels that were interested in us at the time, and when Mr. Brett came to our show at the Roxy, we kind of we were big fans of Bad Religion,
sure.
and we were like, "Oh, this is so cool!" And our band didn't really like look like what Epitaph had at the time. We were kind
Right.
of like different on that roster, and we kind of felt like we would shine more or get more attention, you know, by doing that. And so that's when, you know, we signed with Epitaph, and the rest was history after that.
That's incredible, man. I mean, and then obviously that's probably adds another layer, right? That you're kind of jumping up on the totem pole, next level when you hit up on Epitaph.
Yeah, once we had Epitaph, we got ourselves a really good booking agent, and we're able to play a lot more tours with a lot more, you know, great artists. I mean, we got to play with Emery, Silverstein. We got to do the Epitaph tour that was with Escape the Fate and the Matches and those guys. We did a lot of the Warp Tour circuit. Panic at the Disco took us out on their very first headlining tour. We played Soma on that tour. I mean,
That's crazy.
that was
Crazy to see
that
how
when we
band
played.
that band blew up. I mean,
Yeah, I
from
mean,
that
at the
one
time
record.
we were from Vegas, and we were like the band in Vegas. And you know, when they came out with their EP, and their very first tour was with Fall Out Boy, and so
Mhm.
their very first headlining tour, they took us out on tour. So it was like it was a pass of the torch for sure. They played Soma. They played all three rooms. You know, where they take the walls out between all the rooms that they
Oh,
had
right.
to
Yeah,
make it a
yeah.
huge venue. Yeah, and that's what they did for Soma, for Panic. And yeah, we just had opportunities after opportunities, and we're able to play with like all the bands we loved. So it was great.
That's cool. I mean, yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, they're Vegas band, and they were kind of like picked out though by Pete Wentz, right? He was like discovered them, or so to speak.
Yep.
I
I
wonder if they
mean,
had like were they like an active band like when you guys were around there? Like, did you
so
know who they
no,
were?
they had even messaged us, and their name at the time wasn't Panic at the Disco. Their name was Pet Salamander. Yeah, no
Amazing.
joke. And they had written us and were like, "Hey, we haven't played a show, but we're really big fans of your band. Any chance you put us on?" And at the time, we didn't put bands on that weren't either known in Vegas, or we knew we're gonna flyer our show and really get
Sure.
kids out. So we were like, you know, you need to put out some music or have something to promote, you know, for us to put you on a show. So we didn't. But the one or two kids came out to our show that were like the main guys in the band, Ryan Ross and Brendan Urie,
Hmm.
and came and saw us play a couple times. And then uh, they got there was a band called The Cab that was, you know, similar music to us from Vegas, and they had just kind of emerged. And Panic at the Disco was like, "Hey, we got this 5-song EP," sent it to Pete Wentz. Pete Wentz liked it so much that he put them on tour with them for their very first tour ever.
That's so
So
crazy.
they had played 0 shows at the time. And so they played one Vegas show, I remember, and then jumped on the jumped on the Fall Out Boy tour. And then after Fall Out Boy was done, their band was already huge by that point. It was like,
Mhm.
this band is the new it band of this year. And they did their own headlining tour, and the rest was history from there, man. They blew up that year.
Sure. Now he's doing songs with Taylor Swift, and you know.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, now I would say even they've gravitated even to being bigger bands than their predecessors at the time,
Sure.
which were like Fall Out Boy. People used
Right.
to hear Panic and be like, "Oh, have you heard the new Fall Out Boy CD?" and not know that that was Panic at the Disco. And
Yeah, very similar
now,
voice,
now
right?
people, especially this day and age, would know Panic at the Disco over Fall Out Boy. Just
Crazy.
crazy to me.
That is wild. Didn't Patrick Stump remix one of your songs?
Yep, Patrick Stump did a remix of our song "Pace Yourself,"
That's
and
pretty
that was
cool.
on Fire, and that was definitely really cool at the time. He had been working with a lot of hip hop artists, and we were huge fans of Patrick.
Hmm.
So it was just the right song to throw into his hands. He kind of gave it this Justin Timberlake-esque vibe, and I really enjoyed it.
That's cool. That is really cool. And so what 2009, everything kind of, I mean, I don't know if you even want to get into it, but like everything kind of, you guys go on a hiatus or?
Yeah, I mean, it just had been, we had been playing for 8 or 9 years, and the shows were getting, less and less uh, heads. We were playing smaller venues. Once we had kind of parted ways with one of our booking agents that wasn't getting us very good tours, we kind of just were like, guys, maybe let's take some time off. We
Mhm.
thought it was going to be just kind of a minor hiatus. And, at the time we that's kind of when we all just split and went our own ways. And a lot of us moved out of Vegas and got different jobs. And so that's kind of where the hire kind of broke up, I would say, for a little while, and kind of just did our own thing.
And what got you guys back together? You said COVID kind of
I
did?
would say that COVID really helped. I mean, what happened is when COVID happened, we all, had breaks from our job. We had all had enough time that we had all been writing separately. And
So
we
you
were like,
continued to write music. Did you ever join another band during those years?
I never did. One of our guitarists did his own band for a while called More and More. But we all kind of, I was doing like the cover band stuff here in Vegas,
Hmm.
and even still to this day, I do some of the cover band stuff because it's just fun and easy, and I know
Yeah,
all the lyrics now. So it's a lot of fun and easy for me because I still live in Vegas.
sure.
But we all kind of went and did our own things, and then once COVID hit, we were like, hey, let's all meet up in LA and demo out a couple songs. And so we did. We met up in LA, and myself, Reggie, we're the ones that are active players right now, but we also had our old guitarist Tom Oakes come out and our old bassist Jay Centeno come out, and we were able to write enough material, honestly, for a full length. But we just shopped that around a little bit and ended up getting the interest from our friend Mark with Secret Friends Music Group, and he was like, "Hey guys, these demos are great. Let's put out something." And so we just put out we're putting out the EP, but we just
Hmm.
put out our first single, Free Ride, and it's
Hmm.
been getting a great response. And I want to say it's September 9th or the 14th or something like that. Our next single, Elvis in Wonderland, comes out, which is the title track from the EP. And then later on in October, the rest of the 3 tracks will come out, and people will be able to hear the first thing out, for us in years. So
That's exciting. That's really exciting. And you're doing a
yeah,
tour to support it and everything, right?
yeah, we did some festivals, like we did the So What Festival. We're doing Furnace Fest later on in September, and then the When We Were Hungry Fest
Oh, you're
is
doing that.
well, no, so it's called When We Were Young, is the fest that's like the Warp Tour Fest.
Right,
And there's so
right.
many bands that didn't get on it because that that festival is going to be, it's like band after band after band, you know what I mean? They
Hmm.
had that lineup before we were even saying we were touring again. And so in town, a promoter is like, hey, like the day before When We Were Young, let's do When We Were Hungry Fest, and it'll catch the people that are coming into town for the When We Were Young Fest. And so our band, Secondhand Serenade, Alisana, Hello Goodbye, a couple of different bands.
Yeah,
Are gonna be
what
playing in
our
that.
really good friends band, their Unwritten Law is playing. They're our really good friends, and
Oh
this Scott
yes.
Russo wrote the intro song to our podcast. He
Oh,
actually
that's
played
so
at my
cool.
wife and I's
We
wedding. Yeah, that's how I
Yep,
knew
we
this.
played with Unwritten Law back in the day at House of Blues before we were signed. They were like one of the bands that was coming in, and we're like, they knew that we would do well, sell tickets, and I was a big fan of Unwritten Law, so we ended up playing with them.
That's
And
cool.
funny story with Unwritten Law, we actually bought this merch case from a promoter in Vegas who had bought it from Unwritten Law, and that merch case, that lasted us so many tours with that merch case. It was it was
That's
incredible.
hilarious. That's hilarious. I'm looking
Yep.
at the lineup now. They play on the Thursday with Black Flag and Madball.
Yep.
You guys are on the next
Yep.
next
We're the
night, I
next
think.
following night.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. That is so funny.
Yeah, there's definitely some great bands on that festival. So it'll be fun. It'll be, great to play Vegas and kind of just, give some of the hometown fans a good show. And then we're gonna go out with a couple of different bands and do like just some West Coast dates.
Yeah, you're playing with Ann
Um,
Arbor.
Yep, doing it with Ann Arbor, a couple other bands, and just doing a small West Coast and a small East Coast date in November.
That's
So
cool.
that'll be fun.
Yeah, I like Ann Arbor. I interviewed Slade and Danny. I think it's just the two of them now, right? That are
Yep,
left.
that's pretty much the band. I mean, at this point, it's just me and Reggie, for the hire. I mean, we picked up our most recent drummer, George, is playing drums, but I mean, he kind of wasn't really as much in on the writing process. So it's just us three as far as the original members that are touring. And yeah, I mean, it's gonna be fun. I mean, I'm excited to play some of these old places that we haven't played in a long time. We get to play in San Diego, though it's not at Soma.
Where
And
are
we
you
get to play.
playing? I've never even heard of this venue, and maybe it's just like
Dude,
an error on
neither have
my end.
And I mean, we were sketched out about it at first, but I guess the guy that's promoting it does really well promoting it, and I know kids have already picked up tickets from San Diego because they're writing us on, our Instagram and stuff like that. Like, got my tickets. So I mean,
Dude,
cool.
I'm like, yeah,
Excited
no,
to
that's
check
amazing.
out.
And from what I saw, I'm like, what the hell? I thought because I was born and raised in San Diego, lived there basically my whole life, except for a handful of years in San Francisco. And I moved to Nashville with my family about a year and a half ago. And
Yeah.
I'm like, where is this venue? I'm like, showroom. I'm like, is this new? Like, I've never even heard of this thing. And but I looked it up. It looks like it's around Balboa Park area.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, it should be good. I mean, at least it's given us a chance to play to, the San Diego crowd. We knew we were going to be coming through that town that day, so it just worked out. And we'll get to play up in the House of Blues in Anaheim, and we'll get to play at the Roxy.
Yeah,
So
it's huge.
those older venues, it'll be a lot of fun.
Very cool, man. Very cool. And so you have an EP coming out, and then sounds like the band's back together and
Yeah, I
doing
mean,
things now. I
we've
mean, as
already
far as
got
that
the egg.
goes.
I tell you, I mean, we're wanting to jump back in the studio after this EP is out, and maybe do like a couple more singles and a full length, and just keep pumping out music. And it's been great, the response that we've gotten to Free Ride, and I think it's just kind of inspired us to just keep putting out music and having fun.
Was it hard to kind of shift the approach of presenting the record and the songs since, I mean, 2009 to now, like how with the single game and then the social media
Yeah,
and
I mean,
TikTok and all that stuff,
it's
was that
definitely a
hard to
different
like
monster.
adapt? Yeah,
I mean, we at the time we were MySpace band,
right.
and that was what was prevalent. I would say even as we were leaving, that's when Facebook just started becoming the more popular.
Yeah, even like that
social
was when
media
I remember
spot.
that's when people started making Facebook pages that were like on MySpace. Like MySpace was still the biggest thing, and it was like starting to trickle over into
Yep.
Facebook around
And we
2009.
made a Facebook in the last year that we were a band, and then we kind of stepped away from the game. And so, we had fans on Facebook, but we didn't really have the Instagram and TikTok fans that people have now because they've been building their social media. So, I mean, we just recently, this last year jumped back on the bandwagon with all these new socials and just learning how to play the game. It's a different game than it was. We used to be selling CDs. Now we're just trying to get people to add us on their Spotify and their, Apple Music and stuff like that. So it's crazy.
Yeah,
Now
man.
we're selling our vinyls. You know what I mean? Because vinyls are collector's items.
Sure. Well, it's cool to have a vinyl, right? I mean, at least it's a
Yeah,
big physical thing and not some CD that you have nothing to play with
and I
it.
collect vinyl myself, as you can kind of
Yeah,
see
yeah. Same
right here.
here.
So I was really stoked to be able to kind of press our old CD on fire to vinyl. That's what we did this year, and then this new EP that we're putting out will be on vinyl as well.
Killer, man. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Seth. I appreciate your time today.
Hey, yeah, dude. Thank you for your time, man. I mean, I hope that our paths cross at some point. If you want to come out to the San Diego show,
Yeah,
me a
you should
DM
come.
and I'll throw you on the list.
Yeah, you should come east towards Nashville area.
Oh yeah, that's where you're at now in
Yeah,
Nashville.
dude.
Yeah, that's
I would be at the San Diego show if I was there.
So he's been trying to rally a show out there for sure.
That'd be
We'll get
killer,
out there
man.
at some point. It just may not be till the new year.
Love it. Well, I have one more question before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
I mean, just the main thing is just having content. I mean, I find that now, jumping back into it, a lot of these bands are just TikToking every day and, staying active with their users and their listeners. And I really think that that's important. I mean, now in today's age, that's the best and easiest way to reach your target audience. So just staying active with them and posting. And, after a certain amount of time, you'll catch the right ear of the right person. And then anything is possible, man.